Crazy. The first day when we shot a scene with the Joker, I remember thinking to myself, wow, I really love what that guy's doing. Third film was Heat. I was just still living in New York, trying to work in films in LA, and I got an audition, and I went and I met Michael Mann. And as soon as I sat down with him, I asked him about playing a different part. He was a real gentleman, and he was like, well, that's interesting, Bill, but why don't let's read this one. And then the next thing I remember was first night of photography, true story. Maybe we had like a 7 a.m. call. It was about 2:30 in the morning on day one. Like the crew was like, and I walked up to Michael Mann and I said, Mr. Mann, and he said, call me Michael. And I said, Mr. Mann, is there anything else you want me to try? And he said, no, I like what you do. Why? And I said, well, it's just that we're on take 26. And I didn't know if there was something else. 26 takes. And he goes, no, we got it in the first couple, but let's go again. Michael was very, very kind. I was a young actor, or young in film, and very memorable. Besides the fact that, you know, months and months later, the film comes out and then it's Heat, which is, you know, it's a redefining film in many ways. Just incredible. We got to do things on Armageddon that people only dream about. Places that we went to, Cape Canaveral launch control down in Florida, up on 280 feet up in the air where they launch the rockets and the shuttle from. We shot up there. You know, you just look around and you think, wow. You know, you're never going to forget moments like that. And not to mention the fact that just so many interesting and eclectic group of talented people on Armageddon, and to be around them all the day. And Bruce, you know, I loved working with Bruce. I loved working with everybody. It's really great. Most of all, Jerry. I've worked with Black Hawk Down as well on, I think, 5 films, and anytime you work on a Jerry Bruckheimer film, it's pretty cool. I didn't know Chris before we shot the film. He was a good friend of a friend of mine, and that's how I ended up meeting Chris. And he shared with me about what the scene was. He said it's just one scene in the beginning. And I'm such a fan of Chris's that I said, well, I'd love to read it, and I didn't. But what I'll always remember about the first day when we shot a scene with the Joker and when Heath came out, and I'm such a fan of other actors, especially people that really find characters. And he was real quiet, and he had his earphones on in between, listening to his music, and then we shot that first take, and I remember thinking to myself, from a fellow character actor, thinking, wow, I really love what that guy's doing. That's what I remember. I loved working with Ridley. You know, it was based on a true story. And we met a lot of the people that were actually in Somalia when the event happened. And so whenever you work on something that's based on a true story, you want to honor it. You want to get it right. In the military that we met, they wanted us to get it right. And Ridley was very committed to getting it right. So we had a whole group that cared about what we were saying. And Ridley was the leader of that. Of course, as an actor, I'm always going to prepare. I'm going to have ideas of where I think the character is, of, you know, how to play it. Robert has such a strong vision about what he wants to do. As much as my own thoughts, I really wanted to know his thoughts. Me being more inclusive than maybe I've ever been, because I really wanted to capture what Robert was thinking about, what his vision was for this film. And that's why, and I've said this 100 times since we finished this film, that's why you know, people like Ridley Scott, who was working on Black Hawk Down, I put working with Robert right up there. One of the best times ever. It was a small budget film. I was producing it, directing it, co-wrote it, playing the co-lead, getting coffee. I mean, I wore every hat. I didn't have time to go watch every playback, but I didn't really kind of need to because I know what I'm seeing. I'm right in front of it and I like what I'm seeing. I think that's the performance I want. Is it in focus? Did you get it? If they gave me the thumbs up, I moved on. It's not like I said to myself, well, I'm going to direct myself right now. My co-lead in the film is my best friend, is an actor named Kim Coates that I met on Black Hawk Down. And so I would look at my friend Kim and I was like, hey, how was I in that? And he would look back at me and go, not that good, buddy. I'm like, shut up. And we moved on. The fun with that film was to finish shooting it and then to put it together, you know, to find the moments, to tell a simple little story. Thanks for asking me all these. I love these questions.